from a regulation standpoint, I always find this interesting when we're talking about more of a kind of a controversial type subject where we're not 100% sure. You may have your own opinion, but it's not conclusive whether something is good or bad or okay. So the European Union, for example, has much more specific regulations in place for GMO products and also animals fed GMO food.
Okay.
So each individual product must be individually authorized and approved. So you can't just this is our corn and we're going to sell it. You cannot do that. Some actual countries within the EU have instituted bans entirely. They've also instituted their own individual bans. Or maybe it was approved by the EU. They allowed GMOs, but they're not going to allow this individual product. So I mean, it would take a while to go through all the differences in terms of the specifics, but it is very interesting just to know as I'm trying to prepare a podcast here for this topic, how difficult it is. You've got all these different countries have their own opinions, their own scientists in terms of what they're doing about it. So it's a difficult subject for sure, to unpack and to figure out exactly what you do. For
sure. And especially you said it, including what's fed to livestock.
Yes.
Because that's a whole other subject.
Yes. That's not as, from a U.S. standpoint, is not really a focus of theirs until you get to the organic definition. But prior to that, that's not, if it's not going into human consumption, it's kind of in its own bucket. So EU is just going to be a little tighter in that regard.
Okay.
And one other interesting fact regarding this, 30% of all GMO crops are produced, guess where? Here.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yes. The biggest businesses, a lot of land. It's no surprise. So one issue with the way that we here in the U.S. regulate GMOs is that it's very fragmented. So an individual agency, depending on what the product is, can have different regulations. So the FDA may say one thing, the EPA may say another thing, the USDA has a different standard. So it's very fragmented here. The EU and also Canada are very specific. Another thing that I found very interesting and I was not aware of, surprisingly, beginning in January 1st of 2022, foods must be labeled as GMO. Now, they use a very small seal, makes it look like a little patch, a little seal or a little text, and they use the term bioengineering. So they fought the GMO label as a little bit more of a buzzword. They prefer bioengineer. I don't know that sounds better to me.
Yes.
But these big time companies and lawyers thought so. So that's approved. So
I'm
when
sure
you
they
see
did,
that,
they did test marketing and stuff. So
exactly.
Okay. So bioengineered, if you see that on the packaging of your food, what that means is it contains GMO produce of some variety.
Yes.
Oh, I see it. I just pulled up a picture.
And that's what surprised me is I can't picture seeing it. I don't know how. It's been 2 years now, but maybe it's just, again, because it's like a little seal thing. Like there's 6 of those seals on all these foods. Maybe I just miss it, but I'm going to look for it now for sure.
It looks like a cornfield. I wish I turned my computer on, but I want to risk unplugging
I appreciate that.
the audio and the microphones, but it looks like cornfield, like little emblem. It doesn't look harmful at all.
I was going to say, it makes it look nice and it makes it look like, wow.
So it's almost being presented as if, hey, look, this one is GMO.
Yeah.
This one is bioengineered.
Woo!
So that sheds a little more light on why they kind of fought this. So all right, we'll follow this, but we need to be able to do this and it's going to look this way. And
I'll tell you what, it looks a lot better than the non-GMO verified label.
Wow. That's interesting. Okay. All right. Great. Okay. So you said it was 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So it's on there now. That's good to know.
Yes.
Bioengineered. Lovely.
Yeah. So just to kind of wrap up the international flair here, Canada has a very specific, what I found interesting was traits and targets. So if the original product, they evaluate its allergenicity and toxicity.
Okay.
And then if there's a 20 or 30% increase, the product is banned. So they do it by a specific number. So if they, again, I just to unpack all this, if they find it's 5% or 10% or 15%, it's approved does that mean it's something that you want to eat if you can avoid? That's where it gets, a little tricky. They also, certain GMOs must be classified if they have a novel trait. So basically, if this trait that's been introduced is not a part of the plant at all in any area, then they must submit to their own type of FDA for they call it an environmental release.
Okay.
So it's just a much more stringent approach to dealing with this. So, again, here in the US, the FDA has concluded broadly that GMOs are safe.